Hello everyone, Burb here. Let's close out the Gemini Cup by talking about late surgers. I've gone through all the other three roles. If you're looking for those, they are available in the Champions Meeting playlist, or you can just look at the past week. They're in the channel main page. Today we're talking specifically about late surgers, their skills, why they work, why they don't work, as well as cards and characters and what they do to help you achieve your goal of winning the Champions Meeting, or at least getting into a finals. Late surgers are in a very interesting position, so let's begin. Are late surgers good? They're a little bit tough this CM for a specific reason, which is that they are in this weird dead zone in the middle of the pack where there's a bunch of end closer players and there's a bunch of frontrunner players, and those two are the meta roles, which means every single lobby is a lobby gamble. You don't know if you're going into 5 frontrunners, you don't know if you're going into 5 end closers, and the positional basic cells in this Champions Meeting that are accessible to backliners normally are Budding Blossom, which is 3rd through 4th, and Trace and Cheer, which is 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th in the first half of the race. Now, if you have a end closer pack of 5, you basically at that point do not have Trace and Cheer, and if you have a frontrunner pack of 5, you basically do not have Budding Blossom. So you're stuck in this middle zone where your only option is either to snipe 6th place or to go and gamble that one of those two is available to you. Now you can arbitrage and do multiple of those, however you're spending skill points to do so, and we will talk about whether or not that is worth it. The other thing that's tough about late surgers in the CM is that your gambling accelerations, which should be your supplementary accelerations this CM, are back half of the pack for the late surger specific ones. This means that there will be situations where you are either in the front half of the pack and you don't have your acceleration that you normally do, that you're gambling on, that you're relying on for secondary acceleration, and there's situations where you'll be in the back half of the pack, hit that acceleration, and you will not have enough late race speed to catch up to the front runner who has hit angling and scheming. Now, can late surgers win? They certainly can, and they do sort of punish lopsided packs is what I'm sort of finding. It's a little bit weird, but in situations where the front runners move super far forward, the late surgers just have the pace up advantage because they're slightly farther ahead of the end closers. But then Daring Strike sort of evens it out, so that's tough a little bit as well. They can certainly win, and the biggest thing they have to their advantage is that, hey, you can just build these in a run or two, you hit mile S, and you're good, which means you should be on late surgers rolling through them over and over and over again until you hit that 1 mile S, because you should be able to consistently hit your stats. It's also a target. It's like a beginner's target for starting with the guts build, because even though it's high variance, you should go and be able to run them quite consistently because you have so many options for skills that are able to win the game. And that is really their true strength, is that they have so many different skills that we'll talk about that are different options to play through, and that allows you to go and keep rolling over and over and over again until you have one that is at least good enough to win the race. Okay, so let's begin and talk. Stat requirement's the same as any other role. To be honest, stamina is pretty much fake in the CM, so the late surger advantage doesn't really matter in that case. Your primary acceleration when you're a late surger in this Champions Meeting are your hopes and dreams, which means you have to supplement them with your positional accelerations. And like I said, you have to combine basically these 3 accelerations that we're going to talk about. So to start, your positional base accelerations, it's weird, but the most reliable one is let's pump some iron and hope you're in 6th place. I think you can hit 6th place quite consistently, although there is only a tiny bit of that corner that it actually matters in. And that's a little bit tough, to be honest, but it's a lot of times that's sort of where the late surgers seem to be ending up. Now, your other two, like I said, are Budding Blossom or Nishino Flower. This can proc a little bit late and still give you a decent amount of legs. So you can see the simulator is actually simulating it to be procced almost at 1,200 meters, and you're still getting 1.84 lengths, which is about half as effective as a total Budding Blossom. And it is a high roll. So if you do get a good mid-race roll and you do pass into that 4th position quite early, you basically have a very good chance of winning that race, because that is a 0.2 excel. Louder, Trace, and Cheer as well. If you are in the opposite and there's a lot of front runners, Louder, Trace, and Cheer should proc pretty early. It is slightly delayed, so you do lose about 0.4 lengths, but it is still 2.8 lengths as well, and it is an option. Usually you probably want at least one of these. The one I find has been working the most has been louder trace and cheer, but then again, it's just because room matches are a lot of front runners right now. So it's a little bit tough to figure out how the actual race composition is going to be when things happen. I have a feeling it's going to be about even. Next, you have your unrestricted gambling options, and the big one is Corner Connoisseur, and the other one is No Stopping Me. Now, you can get the white versions of this, or if you really want a high roll gamble, Corner Connoisseur is just a 1 in 5, and as you've seen, if Corner Con hits, it's very, very powerful. As long as you have the late race speed to go for and win, you will catch up to that front runner. That's a big if, but Corner Connoisseur is a win condition on its own. It's only a 1 in 5, and it's a lot of skill points, but it is on that Bijan card. Otherwise, you have Ig Power and Ig Guts, which do not care where you are in the pack, and Nibble Navigator is slightly finicky because if you're wide swinging, you're not going to proc Nimble Nav or No Stopping Me, so it's probably something you're grabbing the white skill as well. Although generally when you're winning, you're not necessarily wide swinging that far, so perhaps it's one of those skills that is very good in the situations where you are winning. Finally, you have your back half excels for the late surgers and for the miles, which is On Your Left and Furious Feet. Both of these require 6th through 9th. Furious Feet is a longer duration, so you have a choice between the two. You take Furious Feet or Updrafters instead. But are they bad? I think in the situation where you have a lot of front runners, you're going to find it's good when it procs really fast. But again, these are secondary to at least one positional acceleration. Now, as the gambling man at heart in this game, I have a soft spot for On Your Left and Slick Surge. I still attest that I think it's good. However, as you get better at this game and you grab more and more mid-race, if you truly think that you're not going to be in the back half of the pack at the late race, then don't take On Your Left. But I find that it procs quite a lot. But see how many mid-race skills that you have. See if that adds up to about a length or two, and a length or two consistent is indeed better than about 4 lengths inconsistently, and you might be able to rely on some of the unrestricted gamble options or positional base accelerations rather than going for the back half accelerations at this point. Do not worry, On Your Left gets buffed. I still think it's fine in shorter tracks like this to take. So if you have one with On Your Left, it's perfectly fine. I've talked about the caveats. Like I said, I don't 100% agree that this skill is completely worthless. I think this skill is fine. It's just specifically for situations where there are front-heavy lobbies or everyone in the lobby has very, very good mid-race and you're just hoping for a very good proc on something to high roll you into a victory. Okay? That has been accelerations. Otherwise, there's a bunch of other accelerations. Dota Alt we talked about. Dauntless is basically a worse Radiant Star, so it's almost never going to be taken. You have Radiant Star, which is inefficient on its own. That's why Dauntless is usually a little bit worse than it. And then you can technically late proc Dober Alt or Redshift, although what I found is you generally are in 5th place in the situations we're going to win. You rarely pass on that final corner. If you do, there's better skills to take like Brian Alt rather than Dober Alt. But it is an option that can high roll you into a victory, like I said. The verdict's still out if you're able to pass on that corner. The problem is that if you're passing on that corner, you're usually wide swinging a little bit, which makes it tough. And I don't know. Room matches are 50-50 on whether you wide swing or not. If you wide swing, you're kind of just dead anyway. So that's why I'm kind of thinking that this might be an option. But again, take it behind all the rest of your mid-race, including any mid-race parents as well. Step on the Gas acceleration is a bait that will almost always proc very early. Rushing Gale's too late. Condor's Fury, unfortunately, should proc very early because of his overtake. And if you're not procking it early, you probably are wide swinging. And Dancing in the Leaves is just block side continue time, so it's unreliable in general. Give Mummy a Hug is the same thing. It is a straight line, which means it is probably a little bit too late. Those are your acceleration options. Let's talk about the early race. The early race in this game, the biggest thing you can do in the early race is high roll a straight skill that procs immediately. Basically, every single straight skill in the game has approximately a 1 in 10 to 1 in 12 to proc immediately or close to immediately on the race. And pace down mode break you. Umastand is not a guaranteed pace down breaker anymore, because it procs after 5 seconds, and 5 seconds is after the first section of the race. It's after the initial PDM. So you have to just get single circle mile straights, late surger straightaways, straightaway adept. Each one of these gives you another dice to try to PDM break. There's a couple of other skills that usually proc early, like Unyielding Spirit, PTO, Slipstream, that stuff. And then Opening Gambit, the simulator likes. I have no idea why it's rating it so high, because it is an acceleration decrease, and I think it's hitting the initial pace up of the front runners. But I feel like it is sort of overestimating how good the skill is. It is only a 0.2 acceleration decrease, I believe, on the fronts and the paces. And I'm not sure exactly if that does much after the first 5 seconds. So take that at your own risk, but I haven't seen it being done that much. It's kind of like the restart thing with front runners. It doesn't seem to do that much in practice. The best type of mid-race velocity, in my opinion, is final corner. There is an argument for early race as well because of passing, but final corner accelerations still have the chance of speed carryover. Now, they may cause you to wide swing a little bit, but that is a risk that you have to take in order to win as a late surger or a backliner in general. But Rising Dragon is final corner. Full of Vigor is a final corner skill as well. And then Shadow Break is probably your primary parent for borrowing. One of these will probably, in end closers and Taishin, it triggers your Is Overtake. So any character with Is Overtake, if you proc one of these gold skills, it most likely will trigger your Is Overtake condition. Otherwise, these final corner skills are your bread and butter. You can even grab some of the 0.15s if you're free to play, such as Air Groove as well. Blazing Pride is a final corner skill, or later as well. If you're picking Nothing Ventured, you know what you're doing. Otherwise, standard corner skills are quite good. They sometimes hit in the first corner as well. Professor of Curvature, Late Surger corners, mile corners as well. Double circle these, single circle your straight skills, in my opinion. There's also 3 general mid-race skills. You have It's On your first pass. Fast and Furious is your late surger. You most likely will be grabbing these if your character has it in kit. Otherwise, it is locked to power build at the moment. And then, even though it's only on a stamina card, Keep Going seems to be actually a 0.45 skill with the possibility of speed carryover. So it's a high gamble option, but it does remove 150 stamina from you. But that doesn't really matter, as we're seeing in this one, because it's a mile track with almost no stamina requirement anyways. So Keep Going's there if you're really wanting to high roll and you can run a stamina card, try to go for it. But then again, it's also an Agima-sen, so it has a flip attached to it, and you most likely will lose that flip because we're not really pushing stamina that much. Late race velocity options. I'm going to grab a drink of water. Late surger, late race options are pretty much in Body and Mind and Firm Course Menace. The extra speed, any extra green speed is your most important thing for late race at the moment. Otherwise, you can grab Tripulse, you can grab Behold Thine Emperor's Divine Might, you can grab stuff like straightaway, any straightaway skill or homestretch haste, and if you know what you're doing, Nothing Ventured. Other than that, it gets a little bit thin because of the acceleration zone eating up most final straight skills. There's a lot of late race skills that don't necessarily work very well, one of them being 1.5 mil CC, which is a late surger exclusive. It's a 50-50 to do absolutely nothing. A little bit less than that if you hit your Excel, but it still has a dead zone of about 1 in 3, so it's not necessarily the best skill to take. Dauntless as well has just inefficient in skill points, and it's basically Radiant Star. And then final straight ultimates that are normally good, like Bark Royal Blessings, even stuff like Aishin Flash, Alt, Swirts, stuff that's procs at the start of the actual final straight will be eaten by the acceleration zone, so try not to pick up those types of skills. Those, I believe, are all the skills that you need to know of. Here are some of the cards and what skills they give you. Of course, Kidison Black is Pro Curve, and Narita Top Road is your source for Firm Course Metas. For a free-to-play option, Shinko Windy is actually quite a good option this CM because Unyielding Spirit and Shifting Gears are both mile skills, and they basically go up and add up to a 0.3. You can have Fuku for your stats if needed. Now, the most likely borrow you're going to have is a Guts card, and that Guts card is probably going to be Bamboo Memory for Full of Vigor because she also gives you 5 additional white skills on hints. Now, it is a guts flip, but hopefully she procs at least after Summer 1 for Final Chain, and at that point, you should have like a 60 to 70% chance of getting the gold skill at that point. Otherwise, the event Yukino Bijin card can give Corner Connoisseur or Playtime's Over, your choice, as well as Grass Wonder is a 5% RB card, but does give Furious Feet as well as Slick Surge in the back. As well, your power cards, if you are running Speed Power Whip build, you have Yaina Mateki for Hits On, you have the Event Marvelous Sunday card for Position Pilfer or the gold version, which is Fast and Furious. And then if you really want to, you can try to flip Bamboo Memory on the Rising Dragon Outer Swell, but I don't find it's really that necessary to run that many power cards. And all these give a bunch of white skills secondarily. For wit cards, you basically just have Nice Nature Wit, which gives you on your left, and then you at that point just grab your highest output wit card at that point. So that's supposed to be Fine Motion or a Mr. CB 1LB plus, or you can even run your Agnes Tachyon or your Marvelous Sunday Wit as well. Notably, there is that stamina card, which is Akino Dictus Wedding, which gives you keep going, but then again, this is a stamina card. It is 10% race bonus, so you do not lose that much stat output. It's just you are losing a slot that could be a guts card, or a speed card, or a wit card, so you really have to know what you're doing. This is very, very high roll, and I'm not sure if the skill is absolutely worth it, but you probably need to have all the other skills. For your borrow priority, you're basically borrowing the card that you have the weakest of, so if you're have speed as your weakest, you're probably borrowing Narita Top Road if you need extra skill points, or if you want the gold skill, you grab Kidison Black. If you need guts, you most likely are borrowing Bamboo Memory, which is what most of us are, because most of us don't have 3 ridiculously good guts cards. And then finally, if you need wit, you probably are going and borrowing Nice Nature Wit at that point. I'm going to go through the characters. Like I said, I'm not going through every single character. I'm only going to go through natural late surgers because I believe if you are able to build end closers on the late surger characters, or if the end closers can force the late surger, you probably should keep them end closer. Late surger is very specifically a easy to build role. Like, it's easy to build these. You can build these real quickly and then either be done, or you can high roll them over and over and over again. End closers have a higher ceiling because they have Daring Strike and they have Straightaway Spurt. Those are the two big things, and like I said, there's no real good accelerations that are 100% consistent on late surgers. So I will be going over the natural late surgers, and the best natural late surger in my opinion is Oguri Cap, who can also be played as end, I know, but Oguri Cap Triumphant Pulse is a good skill, but more than that, she has 20% speed bonus, 10% power bonus for the guts build. It's very easy to guts max on this character. You just grab a bunch of wit cards as well as guts cards with a single speed card, and then she comes with Corner Connoisseur and Nimble Navigator, which is basically all the secondary accelerations that you need. So you just take your parents, you put some primary accelerations on her, you use these secondary accelerations, and then you just load up on mid-race. And this character's ultimate will just go and win you and snipe you races. It doesn't even matter that it's in the late surger position. King Halo Cheerleader is probably better as an end closer. She can be run as an end closer. I understand she's end D, so it's a little bit tough. You will have more consistency with the ultimate in the end closer position, but if you are running a bunch of front runners, you may find, or pace chasers, you may find that this ultimate still procs fairly consistently, and it is still a 0.4 acceleration ultimate that is near perfect proc. So it's quite powerful because she has 0.4 built in when she procs it. You probably want to do and get stuff that works when she is further forward than her 6th place, so she's not absolutely dead. Maybe you go and you put a pump iron so that she can go and work in 6th place really, really hard with 0.6. Otherwise, she comes with Rising Dragon and Kit, and it's still spring, so she comes with a speed green. She comes with a final corner speed gold skill, and the character has everything built in with the guts build. Vodka is probably the best free-to-play option for most people because Cut and Drive is basically Triumphant Pulse from 3rd or worse in this particular track, and she has 20 power, 10 speed rather than 20 speed, 10 power. And the biggest thing is she comes with most of the gambling accelerations you need. You have Furious Feet for 0.4, you have Slick Surge for 0.2, so you should be throwing in the cards that give you mid-race speed skills. This is one that I'll be using in the examples section later. So Shifting Gears, Mile Straights are already built in for the mid-race, and then you just put stuff like Full of Vigor, you put Professor of Curvature, all the standard mid-race skills, and you fight for that mid-race and try to do like a snipe on 6th or something for vodka. Measure Orion is notable because, again, 0.4, but you are fully gambling on hitting that 6th position. She comes with Rising Dragon to help with the speed carryover and the final late race, but you do need a little bit more late race, help with the speed carryover and the final corner mid-race. You do need at least something like Professor of Curvature to help you in the mid-race to stave off some of those end closers, because 6th position is still going to be pretty hard to get in most lobbies. After this, a lot of characters have speed carryover ultimates that I find are a little bit better than other backup acceleration ultimates, one of them being Nice Nature Cheerleader. She is actually quite decent. I know she has troubles with her mile aptitude a little bit, but Go Goal, if you're in the mid-pack on the final... Oh, that's a final straight one. I got baited again by this, guys. Apologies for that. So the ultimate, unfortunately, is a final corner pass into a final straight. So if you pass on the final corner, unfortunately, that means your ult is eaten. So you instead, this is a final straight ultimate that you hope you don't pass anyone till late, and it's a little bit tough, but she does come with no stopping me. Apologies for that. I got baited by wording yet again. Yainu Mateki has, let me check this again, 300 meters is safe. Yes, 300 meters is safe, and you should be passing somebody somewhere from the final corner until that 300 meter mark. Otherwise, you are in trouble anyways. She comes with Corner Excel, and it's on, and Peerless Dance of Flowering Flames is a good pseudo Triumphant Pulse that is a 0.35. She does come with 20% power bonus as well. Machikane Fuki Kitaru, full armor. Bountiful Harvest is a 0.35. That will most likely proc on this final corner, and if it doesn't, you're usually in 4th place or better anyways, so it's not really the worst thing in the world. She comes with Slick Surge and not much else besides a power bonus. However, Air Groove Wedding is surprisingly good because Eternal Moments should proc somewhere in the mid-race. It's unlikely to go and late proc into a speed carry over, but as long as you pass somebody anywhere after 50%, you will get a speed increase, and then you have Corner Con to gamble, and you have Big Sisterly for your early race, mid-race. So you have good mid-race, you load up more mid-race, and you hope Corner Con hits, and you add some positional base accelerations and possibly a gamble acceleration on top of that to go and win the game. OG Air Groove gives you much less, but hypothetically, this is a final corner ultimate that can late proc into a speed carry over. Narita Bryan is the same way, Shadow Break. I did want to talk about this on the Narita Bryan slide. It's a little difficult to pass people on that final corner, but it can happen, and if it does, 0.45, because most likely you're challenging at some point, is quite good. Now, is she better as a pace chaser? That verdict remains to be seen. I think that Nishino Flower positioning is a little bit more important than the additional late race that Narita Bryan needs, because she has Beeline Burst and Embody Mind and Kit, which are additive. So I think you kind of just run her pace chaser, but she is quite powerful if she does end up getting that pass on that final corner, or even after. She can hit your spurt, and on that final straight, it works as well. OG Opera O, Dances for Victoria is most likely going to proc on that final straight. However, if you do go and play the game where you go and you load up on as much mid-race as possible, you possibly can go and proc this on that final corner. Now, this character as well is better as a pace chaser because she comes with a bunch of pace chaser mid-race skills, and possibly you can go and get better access to Nishino Flower Ultimate. To see the trend that I'm talking about on all these characters, Machikane Tannhäuser is actually decent. She has a 0.25 target speed ultimate. So even though it has a bunch of the stamina that you're not using, it is a 0.25 mid-race ultimate that is likely to proc in the mid-race. If you have enough mid-race, you can get in a good position. If you don't, you have Slick Surge built-in kit to gamble on when you are behind. Some characters have backup acceleration based in their kit, and they have varying levels of effectiveness. Tamamo Cross should probably be played as an end closer given the current end closer meta. However, if you do play her in the late surger position, and you are able to get your mile aptitude up, but everyone knows that at this point, acceleration 0.1 is added on to whatever other acceleration you hit, and she comes with Fast and Furious, Tail Held High, Tail 9 in fact, Position Pilfer. So she comes with 2 gold skills in the mid-race as a late surger to go and try to fight for the mid-race. So if you do not want to go and try to get Daring Strike on her as an end closer with Spurt, you can instead gamble her and grab the mid-race that this character has. I think it's still better to have Spurt, but then again, its ease of use is what these late surgers are doing. OG Special Week is the same way. Probably better as an end closer, but she has end closer C aptitude, I believe. And Shooting Star is basically added on to the whatever accelerations that you hit. And if it procs late, it becomes a pseudo triumphant pulse. She also comes with home stretch haste, but her stats are a little bit tough at 20% stamina. Like I said, Measure of Dobra can late proc, and I don't exactly know how you can consistently do that, but this character is 10 speed, 20 wit, so it's quite easy to build. Now, I don't think her ultimate is going to be consistent enough for her to have any real sort of consistency, so take that with a grain of salt. It might just be better to try Measure Orion. Gold City Festival is block side continue time, which means Dancing in the Leaves is never going to be consistent, but hypothetically, if it late procs, it is a 0.3 acceleration with speed carryover, which is very powerful. The problem with this character in block side continue time is if you wide swing, you're just over. You do not have an ultimate, and you're already taking a longer path, and there's really no way around there's really no way to recover from that situation on this character. This is also a battle formation character, which is a minus 0.3 acceleration. So if you do run this character and you test it, see if it actually has any effect. I have not really noticed any as well, but she comes with a bunch of late surger skills. OG Gold City, calling Keep It Real a backup acceleration may be a bit generous, but hypothetically it can proc a little bit late, but you are smack dab in the middle of 4th through 7th, and is overtake should happen pretty quickly in those positions. You come with On Your Left for gambling as well, so if you're really a gambler, you have hypothetically 0.7 excel in kit if it procs at the right time. You may just want to ignore On Your Left and hope that Keep It Real procs late, and then use your positional accelerations for the rest of it. But other than that, it's a little bit tough to recommend, but it is a high roll option. Alcondra Pasta Fantasy is basically the same way. It is also overtake on final corner, but it's less duration and higher acceleration. So it's even more high roll than OG Gold City. But this character actually does come with a ton of mid-race in the late surger position, which is Rising Dragon and Furious Feet, which is a secondary acceleration. So you come with Rising Dragon, you come with Unyielding Spirit for the miles, you have that secondary acceleration in kit, you have a secondary backup acceleration in kit. So like you put one primary positional acceleration on it and you just load up on as many skills as possible, like late race skills, mid race skills. That's it. Also 15% speed growth and 50% guts growth. Probably means you run triple wit, honestly, on this character, because if you're able to grab as many power sparks as possible, triple wit, double guts, single speed should be enough to hit that triple 1100, 1000 or whatever. Machikani Fukikitaru OG, if you're blocked in the late race, you're kind of just done. I don't know how you build this character around it, because if you're not blocked, you're wide swinging. If you're blocked, then you're blocked, and then you get acceleration, but you don't get any navs, so you can't get around them, and this character doesn't give you that much. It's a little bit tough, but at the end of the day, you can just build her and pray you hit 7th position in gate. It's very tough for me to recommend this character to anybody, but I know there's a Machikane Fukitaru Ochi player out there. Let's see. Your best bet may just be to On Your Left gamble and hope that the front block is not powerful enough at some point, and that you are running faster than them and you can nimble nav around them, because the nimble navigator and no stopping me. Yeah, sure. Maybe you grab a no stopping me and you hope that the lane movement is enough to stop you from being front blocked at that point. There you go. You just got a whole Machikane Fukikitaru guide on the late surger guide. There's a bunch of late surgers that have late race straight speed. I'm going to grab a drink of water. These characters have trouble if their ultimate procs very early, but a lot of these characters have conditions that should cause it to late proc a little bit. Symboli Rudolph has Behold Thine Emperor's Divine Might. Notably, I thought that I was wrong in the Pace Chaser, or in the End Closer guide about Symboli Rudolph. Turns out I was right. It does specify late race, which means you have to pass 3 times in the late race, and this should consistently late proc in the situations where you're winning. The big thing about this character is she has Professor of Curvature, so if you are borrowing Kidison Black, or you're in a position where your borrow slot can be a speed card, you can also just borrow Narita Top Road, and now you have a character with Professor of Curvature, with Full of Vigor if you have the Guts card, and and or the Firm Course Menace. So you basically have an entire gold skill above everybody else. You can even run Shinko Windy for that 5% additional race bonus, or of course any other speed card to your liking. Grass Wonder, where there's a will, there's a way. Passing somebody towards the back is really third or worse, so it's not really that bad. But hypothetically, if you are hitting your acceleration, you should have a little bit of leaking. So you could get most of it eaten by the acceleration zone. If your pass is slightly late, it's fairly inconsistent, but Grass Wonder usually is fine. And she is heavily carried by this 20% seed, 10% power bonus. It's quite nice. Also on your left-hand kit for when you're in the back half of the pack. OG Nice Nature, just a little farther. Doesn't really give you anything as a character except 20% power bonus, but just a little farther is safe. If you're in third position, it will give you lengths at that 200-meter mark. King Halo is the same way, but the problem is now you're fourth or worse, and how are you going to make up that much ground? With King Halo, it's a little bit tough in the OG position. Also, her Trace and Cheer variant is quite good as well. This one gives you 20% power bonus and not much else to speak of. Kawakami Princess is a challenge. If you wide swing, challenging is difficult. If you don't wide swing, usually that 2 seconds of block side continue time is enough to make you have a little bit of an ultimate, and sometimes it happens when you are passing somebody a little bit later on in the straight, so you still have stuff in your kit that can go and help you win the race. Now, No Stopping Me is stock on this character is actually quite good, and Rising Dragon is also kind of incredible as well. So again, Rising Dragon is sort of locked to the speed power whip build, but you can run Guts build on her, as well as because of the 20% Guts bonus, you can kind of run a double speed deck with it. And you have Rising Dragon in kit, and you can go and try to get full of vigor instead. That's kind of how it is. You just have multiple final corner skills to speed carry over. Ice and Flash is Baby Rudolph alt, so it works as well, and she comes with late Surger corners, position pilfer, and home stretch haste. Agnes Digital is a incredibly good end closer, and every single time I say late Surger, it's like literally the only time you would play this is if you have 0 end closer sparks and you don't want to do any sort of parenting as well. This character is ridiculous in the end closer position because of the lane movement speed. The lane movement speed, if you have an overtake target, my understanding is that sometimes it can cause your wide swing to actually be used to your advantage, and you can go and basically shunt yourself back into the inner rail a little bit. That being said, you have to pass 2 people in the late race, so most likely you are in a winning position at that point. So this makes your good positions better, and sometimes that means that you have enough to go and reach that front runner. Super Stand and Kit will always be ridiculous because that early race, it just guarantees that you're in front of everybody pretty much in the early race. Late Surger straights as well. And we'll talk about Tosin Jordan. It's the only non-natural late surger A, but she is kind of built to be a pseudo-hybrid late surger. She has mild F to aptitude, so it is a force. But Pop and Polish, surprisingly enough, because it's so far forward in the pack, it should proc a little bit late as well. On your left in kit, because she's a late surger, a long shot in kit as well, but mainly, the reason why I was talking about this is she has 10 guts, 10 power, 10 speed. So she's sort of built for the guts maxing build as well. Team Upper O New Year, if you hit 0.4, you get about a quarter of your ultimate. If you hit 0.6, you get about 80% of your ultimate. So you're kind of gambling on putting everything on this character that has accelerations. It's probably better to be done in the pace chaser position where you can pseudo guarantee that the situations where you're winning are going to be in third and fourth position while hitting Nishino Flower ultimate as that base 0.2. There's some characters in this game that don't have an ultimate. One of those was practically Cheer Halo. I don't know why I missed that. But Satono Diamond has a snapshot at that final straight, and that final straight, unfortunately, is like right in the acceleration zone. You may get a little bit of a leak at the end, but it practically doesn't have an ultimate, and it's not right-handed, so this character is a little bit tough. Ice and Flash, Schwartz, literally will proc only on that final straight, and basically has no chance of giving you much at all because your only condition is whether you rushed or not and whether you late started or not. And if you didn't either, you still get nothing, unfortunately. Summer Special Week has a recovery. However, this character does have 2 gold skills for the mid-race and tail held high, which is absolutely insane. If she had any sort of speed on her ultimate, it would be very powerful, but unfortunately she does not. Grass Winter Fantasy, you should run the OG version because this is just a bunch of heals. Urara is Turf G. The people who know how to build Urara are going to build Urara. She doesn't really give you much, just a green and 1.5 mil CDC, which is not great. And that's pretty much it. But the other version's a little bit better. She gives you Unyielding Spirit and an actual speed ultimate. but you're still turf F, so good luck. And then there's some characters you probably shouldn't. El Contrapaso regular, you probably should at least be putting in the Pace Chaser position. Your ultimate is 2-1 and it has acceleration attached to it, so it's very good to try to high roll those positions rather than just use it as a pseudo triumphant pulse at the last bit when you pass into second place. 20 speed and 10 wit I know is very nice, but again, like the Pace Chaser position has a chance of actually going and high rolling into that second place when acceleration matters. Nishino Flower is a 0.4. You can high roll that you're going to be in that position, and she does have late aptitude A, and she does have late surge of corners, but then again, the pace up might be just better putting her in the position where it has a higher chance of being third and fourth. If you're going to be boxed in by front runners, you're just going to be boxed in by front runners. It doesn't matter if you're in the late surger or the Pace Chaser position. So I think you just take the one that has the better chance of not getting all tangled up with the end closers. So that's just my personal opinion. She comes with Beeline Burst too. Measure Bright you should put as an end closer. She doesn't give you anything in the late surger position. Symboli Ruta Festival you probably should be putting in the Pace Chaser position. It's a tough ultimate in general, but you have the pressure in the front part of the pack, and you're not in the front runner pack on the final corner, so it's going to proc in the straight instead. Christmas Oguri, you should probably put in pace or end closer. If you're going to high roll, you put her in the end closer position. If you're putting her in the comfy build, you put her in the Pace Chaser position because you have all the accelerations, all the recoveries that Pace Chasers have. And I know some people will say Sweep Tosho is being released. She's an end closer, not a late surger. So one final thing I said on the previous video, I was doing a bunch of examples. We're going to build two characters, one of them guts build and one of them speed power whip build, as just an example of how to build from scratch these things. It was said to be quite useful last time, so I hope so. We're going to be building an Oguri cap for first of all with a guts build. Again, Oguri cap can be built in other roles, but then again, hey, it's late surger. If you want to build her as a late surger, you have Corner Connoisseur, Nimble Nav, and Kit, which are all your secondary accelerations, which is a very important thing to note. Next, if you want, you grab the speed card, and let's say you have Kidus in black, it grabs us Professor of Curvature, Straightaway Adept. You can also choose your parents as, let's say, Shadow Break for a pass into some speed carryover, and then let's pump some iron as our primary positional-based acceleration. After that, of course, you can, if you don't have Kidus in black, you can just grab Shinko Wendy. We're going to just start filling up with guts cards. You can get like PTO instead of Corner Connoisseur on our Yukino Bijin guts. And then finally, we have a Yabe just for some more stat output. Doesn't really give us any more skills. And then you just fill up with as many wit cards as you need to hit a decent amount of wit. Let's say like 900 to 1,000 wit. So let's just say we have Nice Nature wit and we have Marvelous Sunday wit. Now, we're not going to necessarily take on your left because we already have Corner Connoisseur in kit, and we already have Pump Iron in kit, we have Nimble Nav in kit, we have a lot of acceleration, so we're going to wait on that. Instead, we're going to go and borrow our last skill, which is going to be full of vigor. We're going to hopefully win that flip, and then Bamboo Memory will give it to us. If not, then we have Pumped, and we have a little bit additional skill points to be put everywhere. At this point, we're going to grab all the other skills that we grab from other, like we may get an updrafters, may get a mile straights from someplace, etc., etc. We fill up our kit, and then maybe we take On Your Left or Slick Surge if we need some additional acceleration at that point. If you're free to play, you probably, or you're newer to the game rather, you probably should try just a Speed Wit Det with a solo power card. I'm going to choose Vodka because it's a free to play character with some good stat growths, and I think you'll find that she's quite easy to build. Again, let's say you don't have perfect parents, so you only have like a Measure Orion. So let's put Measure Orion's ult up there, and remember that Vodka's a mile horse. She has a ton of mile skills for you built into the kit. You grab Furious Feet as your gambling acceleration, you have Mile Straight Shifting Gears, and you have Slick Surge as a secondary gambling acceleration. I know a lot of people don't like this much gambling accelerations, but hey, we're taking what we have available to us. Let's say we have Kidus in black or Shinko Wendy, same thing, Professor of Curvature, Straightaway Adept. We now are doing Speed Power Wit, so let's use the Event Marvelous Sunday card. You could use Flower Power as well, which is Nishino Flower Power if you do not have it, but you will not get the Fast and Furious skill for mid-race, and then you just fill in with a bunch of wit cards, 3 wit cards, let's say, and they don't really give us any skills. Maybe we get lucky with the Tail Held High proc on Marvelous Sunday, and then finally our Borrow would be the second speed card, which would be either Kidus in black if you don't own it, or you can go and get Narita Top Road for Firm Force Medicine. We're already getting like a suite of skills that is quite good. It has a lot of mid-race, it has a lot of late race, and I think it's rather nice to have, and you may not get a ridiculous amount of guts, but you may not need it. So for your traditional checklist, Get your stats as high as you can. Try to get a positional acceleration at some point. That's going to be your primary way of winning the race. And then a gambling acceleration. A lot of people are swearing by corner connoisseur right now, but remember that on your left does exist, and that, hey, the end closers may pass you anyways, and that's a problem in and of itself. With spurt, yeah, it's a little bit tough, but those really corner con, nimble navigator, those are your primary two. Slick surge as well works, and updrafters has a higher total duration than both of those. So try to get one of those, one of each at the very least. If you can get multiple of those, they're quite nice. And then just mid-race, 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 like every single other character in this game. Finally, I haven't put this in the other guides, but honestly, because late surgers are quite easy to build, there's a lot of different options that you're most likely going to grab at least the white version of a bunch of accelerations and a bunch of mid-race skills. I think you can go and cycle these characters for Mile S. And that's very, very important because that is basically your way to turn yourself into an end closer because you just have additional speed. You're basically going to be an end closer with A aptitude instead of a late surger with S aptitude. So hit your stats, hit your Mile S, and then from there just grab as many skills as you can that you feel that through this guide has been useful to whatever playstyle that you're choosing, whether it is hey, punish the front runner lobbies, or hey, punish the end closer lobbies itself. Okay, that is how you build a late surger, in my opinion. Like I said, they're a little bit tough this CM. They're not the greatest role, but they can certainly win. And yes, I've gone through all 4 of the guides, I think in a little bit later than I would like to. So I do apologize for that. I just got busy and I had some side topics I needed to talk about with people, specifically the runaways. I hope you enjoyed those. I hope you've enjoyed all these guides. As far as meta's concerned, I think this is going to be a front runner and end closer with the occasional pace chaser and late surger built in. But when actual CM starts, I think you're going to really see a lot more pace chasers and late surgers because those, frankly, are a lot easier to build than the fronts and ends. So except that you probably are going to lose to a perfectly built front runner and occasionally lose to an end closer for no reason whatsoever. But other than that, remember that you have probably spent 5 or 6 runs on your late surgers, and whoever's been playing these other roles has probably spent about 40 runs on it. So, hey, late surgers are always easy to build, and they have their problems at the moment, but I think they're all still fun to watch, honestly, and they can still win somewhat consistently, honestly, if you're running multiple of them. All that's left is to thank the members. There are memberships available. I appreciate those that have supported the channel. I know this season of Champions Meeting has gone on a little bit longer than expected, but for those in the board tier, they do get an additional shout out in the overview video. I've been doing them on all of them, although they seem to be growing a little bit, so it's going to be a little bit tougher. But hey, I'm going to read out their names. Kiku's the IRL, Sorcerer, Immobility, Mr. Merritt, Crest of Gautier, Lucifel, Oguri Cat Pizza Burger, Peter Van San, Oscar Van Bruce, Mishia, Sage, Kanta Naizumi, Etep Pete, Flipper Z, Suez, Vega Vex, Legato, Rainigan, Misk Sloan, oh no, Angoruptutra, JJ, and Sosoj. Thank you guys. And also that final stream had a couple of super chats that I was unable to talk about because I was too busy losing my mind on the Takezo victory. So thank you for Lucifel for the gifted subs, Sypha, Jalopy Man, MKK, and Darth Bobcat for your super chats. I hope you've enjoyed this CM guide session for Gemini Cup. It's a little bit weird, and honestly, I've learned a lot even from the first guide to the last guide. So again, use what I've said as a perspective for other guides as well that you have done. I'm just one person. I make mistakes. There are corrections in the description below and on the comments from people as well. So take care, everyone. Burb out.